inverted Fox fork.
In the next 6 months, I would guess.
6 months?
That's a guess.
Early e-bikes, there was a point where you'd feel like, yes, I've got more grip, and then you pull the brakes too much, and the bike just continued to accelerate.
Yeah, early e-bikes, don't even talk to me.
For me, to not sacrifice on your tires.
Or tire pressure. People, there's a reason why I only went to Sea Otter on Thursday and Friday. How many dirty looks and how lonely was it in the media center?
It's funny when you get like the, well, how did you guys get media passes thing? Like, it's... Welcome back, everybody, to the Recon MTB podcast. This is the post Sea Otter special. Allan, walk me through your Sea Otter.
My Sea Otter was chill.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not connected to any specific brand at the moment, so I just went Thursday and Friday when it was chill. Took the opportunity to say hello to some friends I haven't seen in a long time. You know, it's like a family reunion every year. It's the biggest bike festival in North America, and the industry is so North American heavy, everybody shows up. So it's a good time no matter what.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you see all the people you haven't seen in a year since that last event, and it's always a good time to catch up.
Yeah, for sure. Getting into it, some of the items that came out either the week before or some of the things that you saw there that you hadn't seen before.
Oh, yeah.
What stands out?
It has been a whirlwind. Yeah. Tons of new bikes, tons of new products, some prototypes. I thought that was something that was a little bit new. We've had a lot of Sea Otters with new products, but this one seemed to have more prototypes. So, yeah, totally. You know, I can start with the Fox. I don't even know what it's supposed to be. Maybe 38, who knows? Inverted Fox fork. We had a post go up talking about how this is potentially the first mainstream brand to go into inverted forks. Had a little bit of heat. People are like, they've been doing it for years, whatever. I get it. I think, you know, what we mean is Fox nor RockShox have done this yet. And hey, Fox with this new rad prototype fork, upside down. It's on some athlete bikes already. Tells me maybe this is a real product. It's going to go to production.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. At Sea Otter, they had a few of their athletes running them, and I actually had the opportunity to talk to those riders. I'm not going to name names because they said they weren't supposed to say anything, so no names. But, you know, I had the chance to talk to them. I thought it was cool that they were, letting them ride them, but they weren't even giving them to them. It was like, yeah, you can ride this at Sea Otter, but you have to give it back.
Yeah.
So it's pretty under wraps. You know, they're not letting them out of their sights too far yet. Let's talk about some of the possible benefits. I mean, obviously, what was it? The early 90s. I think it was 1990, basically. Upside down forks became standard on motocross bikes. Mm-hmm. And it dominated to the point where, what was it? I think maybe 97, Suzuki tried to do something, you know, different in the market, and they went back to the right side up fork. And that was the only year Jeremy McGrath lost the Supercross championship in his career, except for the last season that he rode. So that gives you a little bit of an idea that, like, there was a reason why they went upside down
benefits.
Forks. Yeah. The two main ones that stand out to me is the upper crown stiffness. Obviously, with the slide, the way a suspension works, you know, you have the sliders that go into the lowers currently. So if you needed to increase the stiffness on the uppers, which we have seen on the 40s and now trail forks with 38s, that's the reason why they're doing it. But then the lowers have to get that much bigger.
Yep.
So when you invert that process, you can increase that stiffness without having to make the overall diameter of the fork from top to bottom bigger. So now you're saving weight, increasing stiffness. That's the first thing that I can think of, is that, you know, the upper section of the fork being stiffer. The next piece would be the fork bath, you know, kind of the oil and the lubricant that keeps the forks feeling smooth are always going to be right above the seals, right above the sponges there to keep the fork lubricated at all times.
Yeah, totally. I can see that. You know, forks in the past that have gone inverted, mostly downhill forks, which means, you know, two clamps above, you know, right below the stem and below the headset there. And, you know, these don't have that. It is just a traditional crown to an inverted fork. Now, like I said, in the past, it's all been downhill forks. We've seen Intend and now Push move to a single crown inverted fork, and now Fox. It makes me wonder, you know, there's no fork bridge. Will it be stiff enough? Will you get, you know, sideways flex from your front wheel? Or is the fact that the fork's upside down and has larger diameter, you know, the whole upper part of the fork is now fork body instead of just stanchions. Is that going to help?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That increased diameter of the upper section of the fork is going to create stiffness. Just think about, Cannondale did it with the lefty with only one side.
It's
so
true.
we know it's possible.
It's true.
I can't even tell you how many years ago when they first launched that, I was at Interbike and they had this like rig where you could test the side to side torsion stiffness. And even though there was only one leg, it was stiffer. Mm-hmm. So it is possible. Some of the key things that the riders, that was my question to the riders I was talking to is, what do you feel? And they said definitely increased stiffness on the uppers, that the bike just felt a little more connected to the ground. And then on the lower portions, they were saying they were feeling a big increase in traction because they had properly tuned that flex on the lowers for side hills, for that small bump compliance, maybe some of that high frequency compliance, really minimizing the vibration to the hands into those stiffer uppers. So, Fox knows what they're doing. They're going to be sick either way, but I think they're definitely going to be a consumer product in the next 6 months, I would guess.
6 months?
That's a guess.
Okay. I was going to say like next year Sea Otter maybe.
I mean, they're showing them.
They're showing them. I was thinking maybe pros bikes this summer. They're going to start racing with them and then like maybe.
Well, think about the cadence of product launches in history. There was a new 34. They just came out with a new 36.
Yeah, something new is happening. Definitely a whole refresh of that Fox line for sure. Yeah, very interesting. It makes me wonder what's going to happen to the 40. If they're front running the 38 with this upside down technology, will we see, a dual clamp 40 inverted in the future? I think it's a no-brainer.
I mean, the way that the bikes are getting ridden, it doesn't surprise me that things are going more towards motocross, especially with e-bikes. The amount of time you can ride them, so you need that less fatigue on the body. So things are changing. Stiffness is more important because the bikes are 50 plus pounds. Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to see that stuff for sure.
Yeah, and I think that weight is an important factor here. I think there's no way that it's lighter than a traditional 38. We'll call it, if it's supposed to be the 38 replacement, I don't think it's possible that it can be lighter, really. But in that product, is weight really the biggest issue? I think it's ride quality, stiffness, and traction. Riders going in that direction. And then also, that would be a really great e-bike fork too, which weight is a little bit less of a problem there too. Same with downhill. You want to build the fork that rides the best, not the lightest. So I think it's the right product for that market. Now, we'll see if RockShox follows up with that. Big unknown. I think Fox really kind of jumped the gun on that. I don't know.
Yeah, big unknown. Where are they going to put the fender and make it not look like a dirt bike?
It's true.
Where?
Yeah. Can't hang it off your number plate.
No.
Next, more really exciting products at Sea Otter. We have all these new e-bikes. We have new models featuring finally the new DJI motor. We've got Forbidden bikes, 2 of them, and the Uno Myth, something we've been sort of teasing for a while.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the DJI motor, kind of the statistics made headlines, maybe 8-9 months ago?
Yeah, it was quite a while ago now.
Yeah, it was a long time. And it kind of had people questioning like the whole e-bike market. Is this where it's going? Is it a race to this much power and all that stuff? But then there was this big lull in the time that we got to see them. And I was chatting with some of the guys over at Forbidden, and they were saying that DJI has really understood that they are not bike people, that they are technology people. And they've really taken a liking to working with the brands and the developers, to work on the motor mapping. Where's the power going to hit? Where's it not? And so that's really a big advantage, I think, for them. Not only that they have the understanding of the motors and how to build the most capable electric products, but they understand that they need to rely on the bike people for the bike information. That's like a dangerous mixture right there. It's gas and fire.
Yeah, but if you do it right, you can create combustion or, in this case, a really cool bike that has a lot of people excited. They launched those motors, like you said, maybe 8 months ago with a mysterious Amflow bike that's sort of like their in-house bike. And now, those bikes didn't really come out. I saw them on some maybe media people, YouTube sensations had them, but none in real life. And now I think still the first bikes that will have those motors will be the Forbidden bikes and this Uno bike. Uno has always been a low production company just because they're striving for performance and precision, and they make them by hand in Spain. And I heard that along with Uno being, maybe low quantities, Forbidden might not have full mass market quantities. And I think that's it's hard for DJI to ramp up that process of production and distribution. So I think we're going to start seeing them on the trail, but maybe not super widely until maybe a year from now.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, which is probably a smart move on their side to sort of test the market before they go into this
Agreed.
unbelievable mass production of these bikes, because you have a little production problem, but you have 1 million of motors out there, or you have 10, 20,000. I think that's kind of where they were going with that, and I think it's a smart move, right along the lines of them leaning on the bike industry to develop the motor for riders. I think they're going to be someone to be a force to be reckoned with in the e-bike motor world for a long time to come, for sure.
Yeah, and Forbidden, the small company out of Canada, finally coming out with e-bikes. For a while they were sort of resisting that, but I think they made the best entry possible with this partnership with DJI. And what I was really interested in is just the weight of these systems, right? So you have Specialized launching their new Levo, full power, even the S-Works one.
More than full power.
It is more than full power. The S-Works one with 115 Newton meters of torque is huge, and a big battery, 800 plus battery, but it weighs 52 plus pounds. And DJI with a similar weight is sub 50. And, while a few pounds might not sound like a lot on a bike, it's noticeable. What was especially interesting is when you combine the DJI system with a smaller battery, like a 600 watt hour battery. It's what we see in the Druid Lite, whereas the Druid Core has the larger battery. And the Druid Lite with 600 watt hours in this DJI motor has full power and weighs 46 pounds. It's insane. And I can only think they're just going to get lighter from here.
Yeah, I mean, it's technology, right? Like, they're just going to get more powerful, lighter weight packages. The batteries are going to last longer. It's just the way technology is going to go. But it is interesting that differentiation you made between the Forbidden and the Specialized, how opposite those bikes are. It's actually a product of the exact same thing. It's those brands doing their homework on who their consumers are. Now, you can obviously see that the Specialized Levo consumer is that like 40 plus, I got an hour to ride after work, maybe I'm in full power all the time. Give me all of it all the time now. And then you look at the Forbidden guys, and that's more of a core brand. Like you were saying, they were kind of hesitant to e-bikes, so they probably went in talking to riders what it is that they liked about the way that these bikes were riding for them. And you look at the differences of those two riders, and that's almost the product of these two e-bikes. So that has me really interested to ride that Forbidden, because I feel like I identify maybe more on that side than the other. Yeah,
I hear that. 46 pounds, full power, that's getting like, maybe like a mid-level build Levo SL is like just a little lighter than that. And those bikes ride really well. So I wonder, like, a full power package with that weight, I just can't wait to try.
Yeah, I mean, the Geo packages that these e-bikes are starting to come with, it's crazy when you ride them. Like, yeah, you're sitting there and the bike feels heavy and kind of cumbersome, but you get like up to 5 miles an hour and the weight almost disappears, and the trail just kind of becomes natural. So yeah, it'll be cool to see how these bikes get better and better. I think, man, I feel like sometimes the weight is a benefit. Like if your goal and motivation is to go as fast as you can possibly go, which seems to be what happens every time I get on a trail. No governor installed at the factory over here. Yeah, it seems like, whenever you get to that position to go as fast as you want to go, sometimes the
weight
e-bike
will be helpful,
can be faster because it's heavier. If it's really dry, that's when I notice you can go faster, because you can almost corner with confidence like it was wet on a regular bike. That extra weight is just giving you that traction.
I agree, but to a point. Once you get over a certain weight, it's definitely a detriment. Like
if you're trying to slow down, it's a detriment.
Yeah, the early e-bikes, there was a point where you'd feel like, yes, I've got more grip, and then you pulled the brakes too much, and the bike just continued to accelerate. And
early e-bikes, don't even talk to me.
For me, the zone is like 42 to 46 pounds feels really good. But anything over that can get a little bit sketchy if it gets too steep or what.
Yeah, I was riding like a pre-production bike, and it was a lower end spec'd bike, and I was riding it with a stock spec, so like NX, heavy alloy, like almost maybe unsealed wheels, like the heaviest of everything, and the bike weighed 65 pounds.
Oh my goodness!
And it had code brakes with 200 mil rotors on it. The thing would barely slow down, but as I like started kind of putting different parts on it it really showed to me what the important things were on bikes.
Oh yeah.
It is brakes, it is tires, and it is suspension. And everything else is like, pretty good. So you can make it happen.
Yeah, nowadays people overlook that, but I feel like the transmission, especially with the newer stuff, you can get the low end stuff and still be very happy. But like you said, brakes are critical and suspension is so critical. And then, one that's less expensive that people overlook sometimes is just tires. You need to not sacrifice on your tires.
Or tire pressure. People, this was a whole podcast for tire pressure. Let's not go into it.
I'll just finish with saying, people, spend the extra $30 on the nicer tires. Do it.
It's worth it. We promise.
Yes.
Another e-bike, something we haven't talked about yet, is the new Santa Cruz Bullit. Came out just after Sea Otter.
Exactly, just after, yeah. So basically the lowdown is, it is a new version of the Bullit, obviously, but it's just more like a big brother to the Vala. So it's now horse link suspension. It looks almost identical to the Vala with an untrained eye or even someone who's pretty keen. And it has 170. It's a mullet bike. It touts sort of this free ride ready, fully aggressive geometry. And it's got this new Bosch Gen 5 motor, same as the Vala. Great system, obviously. Now, arguable whether or not it's up to snuff with this new DJI system or the new Specialized motor, but Bosch is in market. You can get them now. You could get them weeks ago.
Yeah. So
this is kind of where we're at. And I think it's the best entrant that's mass market available. Tell me, I think that the discussion here with the Bullit is, and the Vala, where is Santa Cruz going? It's more of like a brand question than is this a good product? I guarantee you this is an awesome bike. Santa Cruz is known to have the best fit and finish, awesome builds, a little more on the premium side, obviously, expensive. But are we seeing Santa Cruz kind of move this big ship? Are they going to go all horse link? Are we going to see all the bikes look like this in the future? Or is it exclusive to the e-bikes? And then just in general, what makes these bikes special now? VPP was their moat. That's what made them interesting, their pedigree, all that. But why are these special? Obviously, like I said, great bikes, but I'd like your feedback.
Yeah, it is interesting to see the horse link kind of making its presence more consistent on the Santa Cruz line, but it is kind of obvious why. It's because of the packaging with the motor. And I think it is something you would kind of see only on the e-bikes. I think they kind of got killed in the reviews in the history when they had tried to squeeze that VPP package in there with the motor, and it didn't really work that well. Mm-hmm. The bikes didn't have that Santa Cruz feel, if you will. Reading some of the feedback from Kieran, their main suspension and R&D guy, these new Horst Link bikes, they have that Santa Cruz feel. So if, traditionally, I believe it's a more linear bike, the way that those bikes feel. They're really plush off the top. From what they're saying is it's back to that, and it feels good. It is interesting when you ask the question, though, where are they going? They're conforming their design to fit motors and things like that. It's hard to know where you're going when that's calling the shots. It is going to be harder to stand out amongst the rest. Yeah, that is what is the differentiator? I think
that's the point, is when you can get for example, Transition Regulator CX. It's a meaningful amount less expensive. Same motor system, exact same battery. Honestly, pretty similar geo, same wheel size setup, similar travel, whatever. You can repeat that statement with maybe 5 other bikes now. Why would I get the Santa Cruz other than the name Santa Cruz? And while that will still be a reason for people, that dies out eventually.
Okay. Well, I can't say why you would, but the little bit that I do know about the difference of those two bikes, and I probably would choose the Santa Cruz strictly because of the fact that the Geo on this new Bullit is pretty much a V10. They've pulled that Geo right from the V10, and kind of the tweaks that they've done to the Geo over the years, they know what does what, and that has gone straight into this bike. And if I'm on a 170, 160 e-bike, I'm going to be riding some gnarly trails, and I want this thing to probably feel and become a training bike because it feels like my downhill bike.
Right.
That kind of makes sense, and I would probably lean more towards the Santa Cruz because of that. And that's what I'd be looking for when I got on it, is okay, but does this thing feel like a V10? Because I have ridden V10s, and that probably is the most comfortable downhill bike I've ever ridden from coming on. Obviously, you ride your trail bike 10, 12 hours a week. You get on your downhill bike maybe 10, 12 hours a year. Mm-hmm. and sometimes they feel like foreign objects.
Right.
But with the V10, it always felt like a bike. It felt good, and you could jump on it. And I would be looking for that out of this new Bullit for sure.
Yeah, totally. And I think there's a separate conversation, which is VPP even superior to Horselink? I think Santa Cruz, specifically when he's designing these bikes, appreciated the freedom that they had with designing the leverage ratio, what they could do with the suspension. And VPP, while awesome, I think is very limiting to them. And like you mentioned, practically impossible when you fit that motor in there. So I still think they're not limited with this suspension setup. There's a reason why so many bike manufacturers are using this setup. Easy to tune, works really well. And I don't think anyone's going to be like, give me my VPP back. Like I said, it's just something to consider.
Yeah, it's all right. Someone's going to come out with the sickest transmission, but you have to have a standardized suspension platform, and everyone will have the same suspension. So
yeah, I mean, that's basically what we're seeing with these motors too. So
yeah, it's starting to, but yeah, people will still innovate. It'll happen. Things will change. I've seen some crazy stuff, dude.
Yeah.
We talked about it. We talked about the lefty already.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to racing.
Yeah, dude. There's a reason why I only went to Sea Otter on Thursday and Friday. I had to keep on what was going on with the races.
Yeah, so we've got the World Cup test event in Lusa, Portugal. All the big riders were out there, and it gave them like a dry run for a World Cup. Awesome times. What do you think?
Yeah, it started a couple of years ago. This is not a race, but it's looking pretty pro. And yeah, I think it's really awesome for not only the riders but for the fans to get a taste of these new uniforms, the new teams. And we did see some riders doing some things.
Oh, yeah.
What stood out to you?
Well, first of all, they called it a test event. They always do, but it looked pretty official to me.
Yeah, super official. I mean, a test event is usually like what they would call an event if it's the first time they're going to have it at that location. But this is more, this is just a warm up for the riders, for the mechanics, for everything.
Exactly. I imagine there's a lot of racers that would like a dry run to their season just like this. And the downhill riders were no exception. They took advantage of it. We had some interesting new bikes out there, some bikes that were being hidden, some, standout results, calling out Tahnee Seagrave. And we can get into it.
Yeah, Tahnee taking the win.
Yeah.
Quite the way to start off the season. As you can remember, her season was a little bit of a heartbreaker there at the end. She kind of went away quiet, though, and you could tell she was regrouping, and it was the kind of defeat that was motivating and not like actually...
Not devastating.
Yeah, not devastating. So it was cool to see her come out. It's not like there was nobody there. Valley Hole, second. 0.037 off, I think, was the difference.
Very close.
Difference, yeah. So super close, but... That's got to have Tahnee motivated going into the season. New bike, new team.
Yeah, FMD moving to Orbea.
Yep.
Tahnee was riding a bike. We don't quite know what it was. It was kind of covered, camouflaged, and it's just really hard to make out, honestly.
Yeah, it wasn't an e-bike without the motor, though.
From what we can tell, it was not, which is very exciting.
Yeah, and speaking of that, Martin Mays, who kind of maybe helped them develop that bike, he did show up. And word was he was going fast all weekend long. Had a crash in his race run, so we didn't actually get to see it all.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like all of these brands, with Sea Otter happening, they have their initiatives. Certain riders have to be there for those initiatives. I wonder how many that were at Sea Otter wished they were there to compete and get ready for the season in Portugal. Some people that got ready and really stood out to me was Ryan Pinkerton. Wow. 1-1-1. Qualifying, semifinals, and finals. A hat trick, a sweep. I don't know what you call it, but he won everything. And for an American kid in his second season after being injured and missing a bunch of races last year, that's pretty impressive. That's got to be promising going into the rest of the season. Yeah,
there was a lot of buzz about him when he was leaving juniors, and now he's, like you said last year, he didn't really live up to that, and he is looking fast this year. He's definitely going to be one to watch.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that is really, I think, something to watch is how he's built his speed. When he showed up, he wasn't like the Jackson Goldstone or the Asa Vermette. He wasn't instantly winning everything. He had to earn it. He had to figure it out, and that is the type of stuff that a rider will carry with them, and that will bring them, championships and things like that. So I'm excited to see how he develops and see him out on the World Cup this year.
Yeah, exactly. We saw a couple bikes out there that were interesting too. I want to point out the Scott. Scott has been moving their bikes to this sort of design that has the shock inside the bike. They first started with a cross-country bike, now an enduro bike. I never thought there was a space for a downhill shock inside of the frame, but we saw Benoit Coulange riding a bike that appeared to have the shock inside the frame.
Yeah, I mean, any bike design is specifically strict around one aspect, and that is consumer acceptance. Down tubes are massive. There's motors in bikes now. So what the consumer will accept has changed, and they've capitalized on it. And for a downhill bike, I mean, you're in the mud, you're racing, like to have that shock completely enclosed, that's a pretty huge deal. I mean, I've seen it on the trail bikes. It's an amazing idea. I don't know. Yeah, I'm trying to think like adjustment. It'd be interesting to see where you could adjust it, how easy that would be, because in downhill, you're constantly adjusting your suspension and what shocks will or will not fit in there. It'll be cool to see how that comes out. But I mean, first race for that bike, second place. Also, first race on that team, Benoit Coulange, able to come out. So he's comfortable on it right away.
Totally, yeah. We have one of those Scott enduro bikes for our second giveaway.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
I was going to say something because I thought I saw one out there, but I didn't want to like blow it off the lid. But yeah, that thing looks sick.
Yeah, totally. Ransom 900 RC, top of the line enduro bike, full 170. It's a beautiful thing. And it has this internally routed shock. And, I was always skeptical of it, but until we got one in our hands here, I'm really impressed. The bike is done really well. It's clean. And you mentioned about suspension tuning. It's actually somewhat simple. There's a button on the bottom. You press it, and it completely unveils the shock. And from there, easily you have pressure adjustment, compression adjustment, rebound adjustment. Now, on a downhill bike, it might be a little different because you've got the rebound maybe on the bottom or the top, whatever.
And mud.
And mud.
And water.
Yes.
And sand.
Yes, but I think it's going to be better than not having it. So I'm interested to see.
Yeah, it'll be cool. It'll be cool to see how it works. And innovation of any kind is exciting to see. The coolest thing about that Ransom that's out there is when you look at it, as drastically different as something like a completely enclosed shock is, it doesn't stand out like that. Same as this downhill bike. You look at it and you're like, it just looks like it's supposed to almost. You know?
No,
it looks like a trophy truck to me.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but it does. It just looks like beefy and strong, like it's going to go down a set of rocks like at 100 miles an hour.
Exactly, and with batteries and motors, it doesn't look so crazy. It actually looks slimmer than those, so it really fits in.
Yeah,
they were ahead a little bit in that way.
Yeah, Scott's a funny brand, right? Like they'll sneak in some game-changing designs, but they'll hide it with like kind of a funky internal cable routed thing, and people might not pay much attention. But they're a sleeper brand. I mean, they've got a lot of smart people making a lot of really sick products.
Totally.
That's what was going on in Portugal. But there was also racing at the industry event at Sea Otter, which is like, super funny type of event. Like they have an enduro, but one of the stages was just like a straight line mowed down a grass hill. So it's like, it doesn't necessarily represent modern mountain biking in today's world, but the competition is still there. People are still trying as hard as they can, going ridiculously fast. And the downhill track is basically like a downhill BMX track. Mm-hmm. And I was super impressed with Asa Vermette. I mean, we've seen him dominate on the World Cup. We've seen him win junior with a time that was faster than the winner of the elites. So we know he's fast. But with the Sea Otter, it's not a normal downhill.
It's not.
It's not. There's like 100-yard uphill sprint. And if you look back in history, the riders that were winning World Cups, that were winning championships and world championships and overalls and all that stuff, they were also winning Sea Otter, because no matter the track, the best riders still win. So to see him in such like a lackluster sort of one-off weird event still win, that impresses me more than if this was a real track and he won.
Oh yeah, he's super versatile, that's for sure. And it makes me think we have Pinkerton in Portugal, him in California, and they are, similar age. They're going same category. Will this be a big rivalry this year?
It's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe American downhillers can like band together, and that'll be the rivalry. I think the rivalry is France and America.
I think for history it has been, but now that I say that, think about Goldstone, Asa Vermette, Pinkerton. I think that is potentially a rivalry here. 3 exceptional racers, similar age categories, probably grew up racing together in some way, and now on the World Cup circuit, fighting it out.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good season, that's for sure. Speaking of surprising, though, you saw the list of racers that were racing the downhill at Sea Otter. It's a massive list.
It is huge.
Yeah, Nico, Ace's boss, got second.
Insane.
Yeah.
Maybe that says obviously something incredibly about the riders, but the bikes too. They're on the same bike. It might not just be a coincidence.
Yeah, I don't think it is.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a coincidence at all. Shout out to Kieran McKinnon.
Oh my goodness, Kieran.
Yeah, we were just talking about the Santa Cruz bikes. He's the guy who does all the suspension tuning and R&D over there. Kicking the pants. He got he missed the podium by 0.8 of a second. He has been on the podium before, but pretty awesome to see that someone that's, you know, putting design and intent into a bike and a brand is out there still kicking butt on the race course, because it's not there in every brand.
Yeah, obviously awesome rider. That's one race that Kieran does every year and always does really well, but it's just hard to see it get so close for him. But
yeah, I remember the first time he got on the podium, I like shed a tear a little bit. I gave him champagne, even though it was fourth place, but it was champagne. Like, he did it.
And then we also have the dual slalom. Ryan Gilchrist coming out with the win. Jill Kittner coming out with the win. That was a different course this year.
Yeah. I mean, the Sea Otter is kind of known as the unofficial slalom world champs, just one of the longest running slalom races, elite slalom races in the world. But yeah, the course was in a different place for the first time ever.
Yeah, it kind of went to the left as you're looking down the hill, wound its way back to where it usually finishes. And, out the gate, you had a very tight rhythm section with varying size rollers. People were really struggling trying to roll them, double them. It was kind of unclear what to do there. And then you had grass corners, you had a big double, and then a cool on-off. And, the racing was tight.
Yeah, shout out to Kyle Strait and crew. They did an amazing job on the track. At first, when I heard that the track was going to be in a different spot, I was kind of bummed, just because I think this was like my 26th Sea Otter or something like that. So as a traditionalist, I was bummed to hear it was going to a different place. But I think where they moved it to was way better, and it made for better racing. Mm-hmm. The old track was on a little bit steeper of a hill, and it was more of like who could moderate their speed the most, and this was who could go the fastest. So it was really rewarding those more technical riders, and it was less of a like roll of the dice. But it was really cool to see Ryan Gilchrist, shout out Pump Track World Champ, come out and do his thing for Yeti. I mean, I think Yeti might have, I wonder which brand has the most wins, because if you think about it, Mick Hanna's won on Yeti, Jared Graves won like 7 or 8 of them on Yeti. Yeah, maybe Yeti has the most Sea Otter slalom wins. We'll have to check that with the statisticians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what a thing to watch, too. You have thousands of people coming out to watch the dual slalom, a lot of industry people, but also a lot of spectators. And you can see the whole thing top to bottom. There's a big difference between, some of the riders that barely qualify to the top guys like Gilchrist and Kelly. Like the way that they just keep their trajectory, they're not bouncing up and down the whole time. Their body's staying stable. The bike's moving under them. It's like double or triple as much as some of the other riders. It's just so cool to see. Yeah,
as the rounds go through, the intensity and how the riders are building their speed, it is impressive. And by the semis, it's almost, you're standing there and you're watching it, but you're also like, how is that possible?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that about covers like the racing and kind of the new products that we saw coming out last week. You were at Sea Otter. I saw you guys walking around. What were you guys up to?
Yeah, a lot. I was there from Wednesday, did a little bit of riding with Julie. She did the enduro. And then, we did a lot of networking, walking around at Sea Otter. We had the guys, Hayden and Justin, in town, which was just awesome. And we were able to really go around Sea Otter. They were creating a lot of content, meeting fans. Many more fans than we had imagined were there. They wanted to talk to us. We were able to chat it up and really understand what they're looking for. And at the same time, we were able to talk to brands and talk to them about ReconMTB.com, what we're building and how we can help sell product. And people were really receptive. It was cool. And they had seen what we're doing, not only through traditional media, but also our socials and our podcast. And I was surprised on how many people knew what we were doing and had seen it and liked it. Some were a little skeptical, whatever that happens in life. But overall, it was a great Sea Otter, and I hope that this time next year, it's even bigger and better for us.
As the new kids on the block, shaking it up, I got to ask, how many dirty looks and how lonely was it in the media center?
Yeah, we got media center access. as you know, the fastest growing media company online right now.
And you had your
call it.
own private
self-proclaimed,
corner.
Self-proclaimed, as they said. We said that to one of the guys, and he was like, "Well, the self-proclaimed fastest growing media company." We're like, "Yeah, that's right."
I just love that there's some old school traditionalist minds and their feathers are getting ruffled because like it's time for change. So let's do it.
Yeah. And we're not trying to eat anyone's lunch. It's funny when you get like well, how did you guys get media passes thing? Like
I signed up for them just like you.
Yeah, just online forum, had to do it.
Too funny. Well, I think that's about it. That wraps it up. So yeah, dude, thanks for having me again.
Another great podcast. Thanks for coming, Allan.
I can't say I can be here for all of them, but I'll be here every time I can.
Anytime we can have you, we're happy.
All right, man. Sounds good.
Thank you. We good? You good?
I was born good.
Okay. So, what was that?
You just ended up in a cave. We're in a cave.
I'm echoing.
We're in a cave. Help. We'd be talking like, yo, man, you see that new fork on TV? You didn't do your research, dude. I got my notes. Where's yours?
I know some things. Okay. So we've got the World Cup test event in Lusa. You want me to say that again? All the World Cup riders out there. Sorry, Portugal, huh?
And the lights.
Yeah. They just had the World Cup test of it. So they just had the World Cup. So they just had